close your guide. Wednesday, Sundays, catch the ride. Football hoops, we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAT talk where the combo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. I wear sharp, we magnify. SWAT talk where the combo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the combo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
All right, everybody, what is going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of Swag Talk. Of course, this is the show we cover the swag inside and out. And I am your tour guide around the swag. C Wells coming at you. And today we're gonna do week 14, man, the final week of the regular season. Got 3 games left. None of them really have any impact on the standings or anything because A, the divisions are locked up, and B, only one of these teams really has a winning record at this point. So in terms of the SWAC teams, we do have Bama State with a 9-2 record. So, we do have a couple of teams with winning records, but in SWAC games, the remaining is not a lot left. There are 2 rivalry games, so you got that on at least going for this week. So, not a lot of intrigue, not a lot of stakes. So this is just going to be a weekend of SWAC football, and we have a SWAC championship game next week. We'll have a preview for that dropping on next Wednesday, Monday. Southern supposedly having press conference announce new coach, so we'll have that on Monday. Sunday we have our recap of this weekend, and Saturday I'm trying to figure out when I want to go live, but we'll be going live on Saturday, so just keep it locked here. We are like 1 sub away from 1,500, man. So if one of y'all can hit the subscribe button, man, that'd be great. Help us achieve that goal and then get us on the road to our goal of 2K. So we making headway, man. We appreciate each and every one of y'all that's hit that subscribe button, especially the ones that hit that subscribe button way back when this thing started. So I don't take any of this for granted. I definitely appreciate all of it, and just want to thank everybody for tuning in on all these videos. Because you don't have to do that, but y'all choose to, and I definitely appreciate it. So let's get on with week 14, man. Like I said, this video is not going to be that long because, like I said, there's only 3 games and not a lot going on with these games. But we'll start off with the Turkey Day Classic on Thanksgiving. We got Alabama State taking on Tuskegee. Obviously, when you look at this game, it's it really shouldn't be close. I mean, there's always the odd chance of a rivalry game. The underdog comes to play, but Tuskegee's been, they've had a rough go of it a little bit when you look at statistically what they've been doing. So it's gonna be an uphill battle for them in this game, and they're middle of the pack in the SIAC. They're 3-5 and 4-6, so they don't have a horrible record, but they're not where Tuskegee typically is toward the top. Offensively, they've kind of struggled. They're scoring 17.6 points per game. Defensively, they're giving up 21.7 points per game. So the defense is actually 4th in the conference in scoring, and the offense is 11th. So they haven't really been able to put points on the board, and that's killed them this season. They're 8th in total offense at 281 yards per game. They're 6th in total defense. At 338 yards per game. Their rushing attack has not been good at all. They're averaging 90 yards per game. Defensively, they give up 127 yards per game, which is 7th in the league. The rushing attack is 10th in the league. Passing, again, not a lot going on there. 190 yards per game. Defensively, they're 8th, allowing 206 yards per game. and they've been average protecting the quarterback. 26 sacks allowed defensively. They have 19 sacks. When you look at kind of some of the guys who are names for them, they Johnny Morris is the leading rusher. He has 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, like I said, the run game is not their strength at all. The passing game is adequate. When you look at it, it's not great numbers there either. But uh, they don't have anybody in the top 12 in passing, so not a lot going on in that aspect. Um, so obviously in that when you look at it that way, Preston Parker has 26 receptions for them, um, 387 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he seems like the go-to guy for them. They like I said, they've really hadn't done a lot this season. So they're facing a Bama State team that's you know been hot all year. Offense, I bring it up every week, but I bring it up for a reason. The offense has scored over 30 points in every game this season. I don't see that changing here. Hornets average 41, so I think I think they're gonna hit that. I think they're gonna. I mean, obviously they're gonna score a lot of points in this game, and the offense is gonna move the ball well. The defense, is gonna be able to control a Tuskegee offense that doesn't really do much well. So I like Bama State in this game. I'm gonna say they pour it on, man. I'm gonna say they hit 63. I'm gonna say 63-3. Tuskegee probably get a field goal late. Like I said, I don't see this game being close. Um, even if I heard Andrew Body is healthy, but even if he doesn't play with the with the offense they have, they'll be fine. They'll put up the points. The run game will probably go crazy. Pass game will make some things happen. So I like the Hornets in this one big. I mean, I'm sure not the only one. Next up, we have a makeup game from early in the season that was supposed to be in Atlanta. All that fell through. They pushed the game back to the end of the season. So we got FAMU and Valley playing in a game that is about, and I'm not saying to to dog anybody out, but this game is meaningless in all aspects. So to me, the first thing that I look at is how each team is going to approach this game mentally. Both teams have had, their seasons would have been over last week, so the guys have to basically regroup and come back for another week and play another game when your season is basically over. So especially FAMU, they coming off of a rough loss to Bethune Cookman in the Florida Classic. Can they rebound from that and make enough happen to win? Can Valley put together a complete game? Because no matter what FAMU is doing, it's going to take a complete game to beat them. Um, just because Valley hasn't played well offensively. Josh Brown's been out with a broken finger, so the offense has really fell off a cliff. I mean, it wasn't really that great to begin with, but the offense has really fell off a cliff. This season, they're averaging 16.8 points per game, and they're giving them 39.4. Both of those are last in the league. FAMU is scoring at 23.6 points per game, and they're giving up 33.7, which is definitely un-FAMU like. Um, Valley last in total offense at 269 yards per game. FAMU fifth at 365 yards per game. That's almost a 100-yard difference. Um, FAMU Valley defense is ranked seventh at 405 yards per game, and they've been able to do a little bit, but they don't have the depth to withstand the offense being the way it is. FAMU defense allows 414 yards per game. Neither team is great running the ball, although I really think FAMU running attack could be a lot better than what it is. Um, they average 131 yards per game. Valley at 96.1. FAMU has struggled to stop the run this season, 193 yards per game. Valley 172 per game. The difference here, honestly, is passing. FAMU second in the league with 233 yards per game. Va- Valley's had their issues stopping the pass this season, giving up 232 yards per game. So that's something definitely that can play into FAMU's advantage. Rattlers 220 yards per game allowed through the air this season. So honestly, I like I said, I think this game hinges on mindset. You know, can FAMU, can they get back up for a game after losing a heartbreaking game to your rival the week before? And you playing in a situation where typically your season would be over. I mean, I know last year they had a makeup game at the same point in time. Um, but these are things that you kind of have to look at. Are they going to be mentally ready to play this game? It's probably not going to be a lot of people there. Valley, you know, with the Thanksgiving holiday and everything, they probably won't have a lot of a crowd there. All those guys gonna be ready to play, knowing that their season has basically been over for a while. That looking for that conference win, it helps with the standings, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, I guess it can give you momentum going into the off season, but I don't see how much going 1-7 is going to change your momentum as opposed to going 0-8. So I don't really think that is an issue for them. Valley, like I said, they just struggled this season. They started off kind of strong, at least in terms of being competitive. And they really kind of regressed this season as the year went on. So I really look at this one as, I don't want to say it's a toss up, because I do think FAMU still is better. If they can get an average performance out of the offense, that should be more than enough to win. Defense can get some stops for a couple turnovers. That can be that can help them. Valley, like I said, they're gonna have to play a complete game to win, and not because FAMU is a great team, but they just haven't played a complete game this season. So I do like FAMU in this game. I'm gonna say Rattlers 28, Valley 10. Um, I'll say no. I'm gonna say 28-14. I think Valley does get a couple touchdowns. I just don't really see a lot from them. If Josh Brown is available, you maybe can change a couple things, because I think he's a guy that can make something out of nothing. And a lot of time on this team right now, you're gonna have those situations where the pocket breaks down, and you need to be able to get that yardage, and maybe even get more than what you need. So having that guy can erase a lot of mistakes, and when you don't have that, the deficiencies are glaring. So I do like the Rattlers in this one by a couple of touchdowns, primarily because I think this is going to be one of the sleepy games. Um, it's in the afternoon, so you have that going to for you, but it kind of feels like one of those early 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock games is a sleepy game. Nobody really in tune to it, other than both the fans of both sides. Um, Although I will be checking in and out of it. Um, so not just a game that should not have been played at this point. It's not that big of a thing. So let's move on to our final game this week, and that is the Bayou Classic. Other than pride and rivalry, there are no stakes in this game. Um, you got one team coming in, with their best record in a while, and you got another team coming in with their worst record basically ever. Um, and so there's that, and you got you don't really know what to expect from this game. And so Southern offensively, they've been better in spots the last few weeks. They've had a couple games now where they've scored in the 30s, which helped boost their scoring average to keep them out of the worst ever offense at Southern. But they still don't have any consistency. They still can't avoid the bad penalties. They still can't avoid the bad turnovers, the lapses. They tend to have these third or fourth quarter lapses in close games, where they, like the last couple of games they've been winning. They've had that fourth quarter lapse, and they've given up like three touchdowns, or mid third quarter, early fourth quarter lapse, give up three touchdowns, and you go from up a few to down, by double digits, and you can't get back in it. So I do think I do think someone's going to come out ready to play. I mean, it's the Bayou Classic. I've never really seen any team in this game come out flat, no matter what their record is. Now, that doesn't mean that that team plays great. It doesn't mean that team wins. It doesn't mean the game is close. But the early portions I've seen, I've seen bad Grambling teams. I've seen bad Southern teams. I've been to Bayou Classic basically, other than like a span of 5 years in the mid 2000s. I've been to most Bayou Classics, so I know I've seen the gambit of Southern being bad, Grambling being bad. Those teams always come out to play. So I do think Southern will come to play. I just don't know if they're gonna have the mojo to get through this game because they've been giving up a lot of big plays on defense. Um, and they're facing an offense that has some uncertainty at quarterback. I don't really know what's going on there. But Grambling right now they're averaging 23.6 points per game, and their defense gives up 25.9. Southern defense gives up 36.9 total offense. Neither offense is really moving the ball extremely well. So this could be an ugly game, or it could be. I mean, it could be an ugly game in any facet. It could be an ugly game because neither offense is doing anything. It could be an ugly game because one team is able to generate some points and it turns into a blowout. So this game, I really think this game will be an ugly game. Both teams averaging, in the low 300s per game. Southern 309, Grambling 319. They both averaging 5.1 yards per play. Uh, Total defense, Southern allows 423 yards per game. Grambling allows 336. So Grambling's third in total defense. So I think their defense is going to be the best unit in this game, and they'll probably be the unit that determines this game. Rushing attack, Grambling is at 147.9, Southern at 151.1. They both at 4.1, 4.2 yards per carry. Both teams want to run the ball. Southern run it 383 times, Grambling 393. So they will run the ball. Both teams will do that. Grambling has been pretty solid against the run, 135 yards per game, which is third. Southern 190 per game, which is ninth. Passing offense. Again, both teams have it rough. Um, Southern's last in passing offense at 158 yards per game. Southern's only thrown 8 touchdowns. That's the second fewest in the league. They haven't really thrown a ton of interceptions though. They've thrown 6. So they have been relatively careful with those interceptions, but the ones they've thrown have been very untimely. Grambling is 10th at 171 yards per game through the air. They've thrown 8 interceptions. They have 15 touchdowns. Neither team is um, that efficient in completions. Grambling 58%, Southern 52. Passing defense, Grambling is fourth at 200 yards per game. They do have 9 interceptions on the season, so that can bold in their factor. Southern is 11th, allowing 233 yards per game. They give up a lot of big plays through the air. They have 3 interceptions. They've allowed 22 touchdowns, which is the third most in the league. So they've really struggled with the pass defense and the big plays. One difference, and we don't really talk about this a lot here, but I do think this is one of those instances that it needs to be discussed, and that's special teams in the return game. Grambling is very, very good in the return game. They average 22.7 yards per kickoff. They do have a touchdown. They average, which is second in the league, they average 13.6 yards per punt return, which is second in the league. They also have a touchdown there. Southern, they've been spotty. It's actually probably been one of the better return units they've had in a few years, but it's still not great. 16.4 yards per kickoff return, which is 10th, and 7.1 yards per punt return, which is 7th. And so that can definitely swing this game. Big return can set a team up with good field position, or it could lead to a score. You look at last year, Bayou Classic special teams helped Grambling stay in the game. They had a block punt, a block field goal, and a kickoff return for a touchdown. All those things kept that game closer than what it may have been. In a game like this, those kind of plays can be what makes the game can widen the gap between these two teams. Both teams about they both have um, relatively even in field goals, 63% for Southern, 70 for Grambling. Um, Grambling averages 35.2 yards per punt net, 37.6 overall. Southern 34.7 yards per punt, 32.9. So both teams are pretty solid with the with the punt return coverage. Defensively, Southern allows 15 sacks and Grambling at 14. So again, neither team is a passing team, but they do a pretty good job of protecting the quarterback. Grambling leads the league in sacks with 31. Southern is at 16. That number is definitely the fewest Southern's had in quite some time. Southern the last few years has been, top 2 or 3 in sacks. They haven't really had that pass rush as a team this season. Um, and that's that's been one of the problems that Southern has. Grambling converts 34.2% on third down. Southern 39.3. Grambling allows 35.8% on third down. Southern 48.1. So if Grambling can put together some drives, I think they have a better chance of pulling this game out. Southern has been all or nothing for a lot of portions of the season. They've either, had that long touchdown, um, or they've had a couple opportunities where they've had methodical drives, but they never seem to have it at all at once. And so, with a game like this and these two teams being the way they are, obviously you lean to the team who's playing better at this point, and Grambling is playing better at this point. They have a couple things that I think they can change this game. They force turnovers, they score off of them sometimes, and they have a good return unit. Those two things alone can help sway the momentum in favor of Grambling. The run game should be able to help them out on Saturday. And depending on who's playing quarterback, the passing game shouldn't have to do too much. So I like Grambling in this game because I just don't see Southern putting together that complete game. Like I said with Valley, they need to play a complete game to win, and they haven't done that at all this season. Sometimes you play a really good game and lose, but Southern hasn't had that. They, I guess the closest they've had to that was last week, or maybe the FAMU game, but there was still a lot of mistakes in those games that keep you from saying, oh, that was a pretty solid game for the Jaguars. So I like Grambling in this one. I'm gonna stick with my theme that I've done the last few weeks when I picked the Southern game. 35-17. They tend to hang around that 17, 14 point range, and the defense is giving up 30 plus points pretty much the bulk of the season. So I like the Tigers here. They take on the Bayou Classic. Southern moves on to the new coach, and so that's gonna do it for today's show. Again, we'll be back on Sunday to recap these games. Saturday, I'll be live at some point either during the game or later in the evening after the game's over. We'll figure that out. But with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.